You will on the side. In today's episode of Locked On Pistons podcast, the Detroit Pistons acquired Duncan Robinson to a 3-year contract. They signed and trade Simone Fontecchio. Is this a good signing for the Detroit Pistons? Did they make up for the losses that they've had to their roster? We'll talk about it in today's episode of Locked On Pistons podcast. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I'm your host, Kuka Hill. I've been covering the Detroit Pistons for the Locked On Network over the last 4 years. I've been a credentialed media member for the last 3 years. I appreciate all of you guys making Locked On Pistons your first listen every single day. All you everydayers out there, I appreciate all of you guys. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. We just crossed over 11,000 subscribers. Appreciate all of you guys. We're on our way to 12K. I want to get to 20K soon. Hopefully, within the next year or so, maybe we can do it. But let's get to 12K next. I really would appreciate it. Or you guys can leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. We are joined by friend of the podcast, Matt Griffin. As always, Matt, appreciate you coming on, making some time to, stop playing rematch for a minute and come record about the Pistons. Today's episode, we'll talk about Duncan Robinson, who just signed with the Detroit Pistons in the sign and trade. We'll discuss later on whether we think the Pistons are having a good offseason thus far. And then we'll also get into, is there any other moves coming? Do the Pistons have anything else up their sleeve? We'll discuss all of that today. But let's start with the breaking news. Matt, it was looking urgent. It was looking urgent there for a minute. We'll get into the other players that the Pistons lost. But for a minute today, it was like, okay, they have to hit this one. They have to hit this one. And they did. Duncan Robinson is going to be signing a 3-year contract with the Detroit Pistons. The first year is fully guaranteed. The second year is partially guaranteed. The third year is non-guaranteed. So it's basically a 1-year contract. They had to make it a 3-year contract so you could sign and trade. You can't sign and trade a contract unless it's at least 3 years. So they basically made it a 1-year deal with no real guarantees on the back end. So it's around $16 million a year, 3 years, $45 million. But again, like I said, only the first year is fully guaranteed. He's coming to the Detroit Pistons. The Pistons are trading Simone Fontecchio to the Miami Heat. Matt, what do you make of this move?
Yeah, I mean, first reaction, well, obviously this was needed, right? I think this is a great fit from a basketball perspective. You lose Tim Hardaway Jr., you lose Malik Beasley, your two most voluminous three-point shooters. Or I think Tim took the exact same amount as Cade, basically, but you get what I'm saying. Two of your higher volume three-point shooters, and you replace them. Their minutes essentially, in my head, I kind of did it. Well, you lose those two guys and then add in Caris, LeVert, add in Jaden Ivey. It's like there's a lot of threes kind of left on the table, which basketball is far more than just how many threes you're making, to be clear. But I did think adding a movement shooting threat would be really important with kind of the limitations of the roster right now, right? We play multiple wings who can't shoot or don't shoot well yet, I should say, maybe. But really, they can't shoot. And we play bigs who don't shoot. So you're kind of in a little bit of a flux there from a spacing perspective. But Duncan Robinson's a little bit of he does what Malik Beasley does. It feels like he's a one-man spacer. He occupies so many defenders with his movement and his shooting ability. So great fit. The first 3 year, $48 million was a little bit of a woe, but then, like you mentioned, I mean, it's partially guaranteed. Third year is an option. That's fine. That's completely fine in my opinion. It seems like a good bit of business.
Yeah. So let's step away from the basketball perspective for a second, just real quickly. I like it for the reason that you brought it up. The last 2 years are not really guaranteed. It's only the first year. And now the Pistons, and this has been a big deal because the Pistons, if they wanted to make any kind of trades, let's say at some point they wanted to move on from a Duran, wanted to move on from an Ivy, maybe a Sar, Ron, whatever, and then wanted to go after somebody. The only large contracts they had that they could really use is Stu, who they don't really want to move on from, and Tobias, who they don't really want to move on from. Both those guys they'd like to keep. They just didn't have any other matching salaries. Now they have Caris LeVert at around $14-15 million. And now they got Duncan Robinson at around $16 million. I would not be shocked if either of those guys were traded at the deadline this year. Would not be shocked because now the Pistons can be a little bit more aggressive in the trade market because they have more salaries that can match. So I would not be shocked if either of these guys get traded at the deadline. But let's go ahead and go back to the basketball perspective. I mean, Duncan Robinson was the only other option, I think, left on the board that could replicate any of Malik Beasley's shot profile. And I've said this on the podcast the last 2 episodes. You're not going to replace 300 threes with one person. Malik wasn't going to be able to do that. That was a historic.
Yeah. Malik wasn't going to have 300 threes again.
Right. It was an insane season that Malik had that maybe he would have another great year, but expecting him to do that would have just been asking like 2 back-to-back Steph Curry like years. And that just wasn't realistic. But is there another player out there that could at least do the same, take the same type of shots, provide the same type of offense to where you can run some movement, run some DHOs, pin downs, have that type of gravity. You can play with Cade. Malik Beasley played a lot of his minutes with Cade. Could they get someone like that on the roster? And we'll get into it later. They did lose THJ before this. It was looking like it was either Duncan or nothing. And they did get Duncan Robinson. So I think it's a good signing. I honestly like this signing more than Caris LeVert, but we'll get into that later. Matt's higher on Caris LeVert than I am, so you guys will get the positivity about LeVert from him. But I like the signing. It makes sense financially. You can trade it. It's a tradable contract. It's really inspiring for a lot of teams, and I think he helps this team right now, obviously, and he addresses a major need that they needed, which is shooting, because they lost all of their shooters.
Yeah, I mean, it's Malik Beasley I call it the best role-player shooting season that anybody's ever had. You know, like you take the Damian Lillards and the Steph Currys off the board, and I guess the Klay Thompson, like nobody's done what Malik Beasley did last year. The efficiency, the volume. I mean, the shots that he shot, we watched it night in, night out. Like it was nuts. He was running hot. He had the magnet working all year. You can't bet on that again, right? Shooters fluctuate quite a bit. So I said, like, it's a coin flip who has a better shooting season between Beasley and Robinson to me. But then past that, like, I personally just think Duncan's a better player, at least a better offensive player for sure. I think Beasley brings a little bit more to the defense. Obviously, you don't want Beasley guarding anybody for real, but like he does fight in a way that I feel like Duncan doesn't, kind of. Not that Duncan doesn't try. I feel like Malik's got a little bit more grizzle to him, a little more grit to him. Like we'll get up in you a little bit in a way that I don't think Duncan does. But I think Duncan is less of a specialist on offense. And like the saying is always, specialists can't play in the playoffs. Specialists don't play in the playoffs. Like I trust Duncan to be able to hang and at least like provide you good offense in the playoffs. I think to his, watching him with Miami, the movement obviously stands out a ton because it's not just the movement around the perimeter, right? It's the cutting, it's the pass, and then it's the pass, pitch, and then follow your pass, right? The 2-man game with Bam, I think, was always something super notable. Yep, like those two guys had a really, really good chemistry. Hopefully, Duncan is able to develop something similar with Duren. I think having like the dribble handoff type of big is a kind of a perfect pairing with a movement shooter kind of like this. So I'd like to see Duncan play as much with Duren as possible, because the less that he's with like a real kind of screener handoff guy, the more he sort of has to create for himself. Not that Stu doesn't set screens, but has to create for himself with the ball in his hands, which is the last thing you want Duncan to do on offense. But I don't think he's bad at that either. Like all things considered, right? Like, so I'm pretty excited to watch him play. I think Duncan's just a fun watch. My biggest qualm, though, I mean, there's just a lot of maize and blue kind of infecting this beautiful Pistons franchise that's begun to finally sprout, and we've got to put an end to it. I think if we get another Michigan player, like things could start to turn poorly in a real way.
Well,
so out on Mo Wagner.
No, not Mo Wagner. That's not going to happen.
True. Killian already beat him up. I almost said something. I'm not allowed to sound like that.
But yeah, no, I agree with you about Duncan's what he brings to the offense. He brings more than just movement shooting. It's not like he's not a superstar offensively, but he's able to, like you mentioned, he moves a lot more than Beasley. Like if he gets denied,
he's more dynamic. I think like his movement feels way more dynamic than Beasley.
If he gets denied, if he gets top locked, he's cutting back door and he's just running around to the other side. He's just constantly moving. Yep. He cuts really well. Honestly, I talked with Locked On Heat host Wes Goldberg today. Let me see if I can get the quote pulled up. He said, I asked him to just give me a quick few sentences on him. He said, I think he's a 2-3. He's an awesome movement shooter who can unlock a ton of space. He has more off the dribble than a lot of people think, and he's a pretty good passer. So, look, I don't think that Beasley was a very good passer. I do think Duncan provides some, like, easy reads. He's able to make some easy reads, and he
gets two on the ball a lot.
Yes, and he's able to make that read quickly to the slipping defense or the slipping big man in the role, setting the screen. He's able to do that, and again, it seems like he just moves and it leverages his movement more than Beasley did. Now, Beasley maybe obviously made up for it because he had a legendary shooting season, but in other
I didn't want Beasley passing the ball last year.
Right, exactly. But Duncan does bring a different aspect. I think he was really, not only was he the best option to kind of replicate it, he was the only option. If they didn't get Duncan, I don't know what they were. If they didn't get Duncan, he was getting bleak.
Baby.
It was getting bleak, dude. Like, I look at the Pistons community as the day was going on. It was getting dark, man. It was getting dark. If they didn't get Duncan, I don't know what was going to happen. So they did. They got him. It's effectively a 1-year deal. Fits the team, brings what they need shooting wise, more movement, smart player. I think Cade's going to love play with them. I think you have to play him and Cade a lot together. I do agree that you want to play him with Duren as well. I like it. I think it's a good signing. But coming up, is it enough? Is Duncan Robinson, is Caris LeVert good enough to have a good offseason with how the rest of the Eastern Conference is looking? Is this enough for the Pistons to hang with the rest of the Eastern Conference? We'll talk about that coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can check all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also spending wealth. You can take control of your finances with Monarch Money. You can use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Again, take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Head over to monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year if you use code LOCKEDONNBA. That's monarchmoney.com/LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year, again, with Monarch Money. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. That's another great way to support the podcast. Appreciate all of you guys, all you everydayers. I appreciate all the support for the podcast, the Substack, the playback. Appreciate all of it. Let's go ahead and get into it, Matt. The Pistons, so far, we didn't really talk about it earlier, but they lost Schroeder. Schroeder's gone. He'll come up again, actually, in the third segment. But they lost Schroeder. They've lost Tim Hardaway Jr., who signed with the Denver Nuggets. And obviously, just to give you guys an update on the whole Malik Beasley situation, listen, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a judge, but the more information that keeps coming out, it just keeps getting worse. So I'm going to just pencil in that it's done.
He needed Monarch Money.
That's a good plug. That's a good plug. It's not looking good at all for Malik Beasley. I think I don't think he's coming back at any time. It's not looking good. So you lose all three of those guys. Once THJ signs with the Nuggets, everyone's like, so the original plan was to bring back your vets. Now you've lost all of them. You're not bringing any of them back. You lost all of them. Now you're able to you got Duncan, you got Caris. Matt, is this enough? Do you feel good about the offseason? Is this a good enough offseason?
Good enough is a funny term. I'll say, is this enough? I mean, yeah. I said the very first, so me and you streamed as free agency opened up yesterday. And the very first thing I said was I'd exhaust all options to give every dollar that we can to Santi Aldama, right? And we didn't do that. I also wanted Jake LaRavia. We didn't do that. So could the offseason have been better? And LaRavia got Ty Jerome is a better player than anybody that we've acquired, and they got him for cheaper than either of the players that we acquired. I know that he has beef with JB. What can you do? So was it a great offseason? I'm going to say no. It could have been better is what I think. But I don't think it was bad either. I'm not ringing the alarms like some people. The way that I look at it, the way that I divvy it up, right? You're losing Tim Hardaway Jr. minutes, you're losing Beasley minutes, you're losing Schroeder minutes. So Jaden Ivey obviously is coming back, and he's going to relieve that. Jaden Ivey didn't play any games with Dennis Schroeder. So, I mean, not from a positional fit standpoint, they do different things, but just from a minutes allocated standpoint, you can see those minutes can go there basically. You don't have to worry about that. And then you lost 2 off guards. Well, you bring in 2 more guys, you bring in Duncan Robinson, you bring in Caris LeVert. Now, the way that I look at it is really Jaden Ivey is kind of taking Hardaway's minutes because Hardaway spent so much time just sort of as the starting 2 guard, or maybe you start Duncan Robinson, whatever. Those are your 2 guards. And then, I mean, Caris LeVert essentially acts as a backup point guard.
Can you spend a little bit more time? can you spend just a little bit more of your time talking about Caris LeVert? Because chat
Sure.
and the listeners, the comments, the podcast listeners, everyone, they know it based off last episode. I'm not the highest on that signing. Now, I do want to say this real quick. Before Matt goes into all of his positives about why you should like the signing, I want everyone to know that his first reaction, as soon as the notification hit the phone, his first words were, and I quote, this. I mean, he's bad, man. He's bad. I don't know. He's bad.
All right. I can explain. I can explain.
Go ahead.
He is bad. Well, he is bad in the sense that he was bad for way longer than he is good. So you still have to say that he has not, I don't think that he's graduated from bad to good yet. Because he's been in the league. Last year was year 8 for him, year 9.
Year 9.
He spent all of those seasons, but 1 or 2 of them as bad. So you have to call him bad, in my opinion. But last year, he was not bad. Last year, he was good. In fact, I would say last year, he was like the ideal of what you want role players to be in 2025. Like, he's a guy that you can trust to create his own offense with the ball. He's really low turnover. I mean, last year, per 75 possessions, he was getting as many assists as a guy like Jaden Ivey, who we consider our secondary creator, and less than half the turnovers. So, like, he's just more efficient with on-ball opportunity than Jaden is. He defends, like, relatively well. I think that he defended really well last year. Like, watching Cleveland, I think, like, that was one of my main takeaways early in the season, was what he was doing defensively. And he shot the ball over his head a little bit last year, and maybe that won't happen again. Like, he could come back down to 33, 34% from 3, and then things feel worse. I recognize that. But the reason that I have optimism for him continuing sort of his ascension. And yeah, it is weird that a guy just got better in a contract year in year 9. That is weird. All right. I get that. But it's not like he just made jump shots or it was something that was completely unsustainable. It felt like his process as a basketball player was better. It felt like his commitment to defense was better. Like, that stuff that generally carries with you. Like, I guess I don't think it's going to go away unless this is a little bit of a DeAndre Ayton situation, just trying to get paid or whatever. But I mean, he was good on serious basketball teams. Like, he was good for the 1 seed Cleveland. They were the 1 seed when they had him, the 1 seed Cleveland Cavaliers. And he's 6'6". He can dribble, he can pass, he can shoot, he can defend. If he does all of those things, which he showed to do last year, there's no way this isn't good, is generally my takeaway. And I mean, like, you could totally poke holes in the stats that Dennis Schroeder was putting up. You know, if you want to talk about, he shot 37% from the field. There's a lot of situations people would look at that and go, 6-foot guard is shooting 37% from the field. He's bad. I don't think Schroeder's bad. I love Schroeder, but that's the essence of the situation, right? So, I think it's going to be fine. I think he's a pretty good player. Did he get a little bit too much money? Like, did he deserve the full MLE? Maybe not. I don't disagree with that. I think that that's a fair thing to critique, but I don't think it's out of the cards that he's going to have a good season for us. The thing that I will continue to harp on is, yes, he has been bad for most of his career. He was good last year, and the only thing that matters is he good for us, not whether he was good 3 years ago, which, again, I can concede he wasn't.
All right, fair enough. You guys got the positivity from Matt with that one. I hope he's right. I hope he's as good as he was last year. If he's as good as he was last year, and he really has turned it around in year 10, like that'd be great. Go ahead.
For another piece, I mean, JB knows him, right? He has a good idea of if he would buy into this culture, if he would fit with this locker room, if he would, buy into the identity of this team. I always thought Caris LeVert was, not always the smartest basketball player, but I feel like I never questioned his dog. Right. But, and that's what this team thrives on. This team loves dog. This team ran a lot on vibes last year. And I trust JB to at least JB clearly good vibes got until the end of Cleveland. I guess you can. Well, I just said we weren't allowed to sign Ty Jerome because JB hates him. So maybe I can't say that. But so far the vibes have been great under JB. So I trust him to lead us to good vibes continuing.
All right. So there's the positivity with the Caris LeVert signing. You guys got it. He was more positive than me. I know you guys want more positivity, so there you go. How I feel about the offseason. I feel like the offseason is basically kind of what Trajan said he was going to do, just like with different players. Like, so Ivy comes back. He's taking THJ's minutes, basically. Let's just THJ was starting. Okay, Ivy's taking THJ. You lose. They were planning on bringing, according to what Trajan told us, they wanted to bring back THJ, Malik, Schroeder. They wanted to bring these guys back. They lost all three of them, but THJ is replaced by Ivy, Beasley's replaced by Duncan, and Schroeder's replaced by, Caris LeVert. So they didn't go out and make like any big moves. And he said he wasn't going to be super aggressive. So they didn't. And it's just day 2 of free agency. So obviously more things can happen. But as it stands, it looks pretty. There's not much wiggle room here for much else. But he made it clear he wasn't going to make an aggressive move. He kind of replaced the guys that they lost with the same type of guys, with the same type of usage. They're not going to be asked to do more than those guys were asked. And they're relying on internal growth. They're going to rely, if they're going to get better this year, it's not going to be because they signed Duncan Robinson. It's not going to be because they signed Caris LeVert. It's not going to be because they, Chaz. I don't think Chaz Lanier, but who knows? Maybe he comes in, he plays. But the improvement is going to have to come from Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Asar Thompson, Jalen Duren, and Ron Holland. And that's what they told us. That's what Trajan told us. So they lost their own 3 vets. They had to pivot. They got 3 different vets. Maybe they didn't go and get the starting forward that I would like. Maybe they have time still, but it doesn't look like they're really prioritizing that right now. But they made sure they got their movement shooter. They still have it. They made sure they still got somebody that can go play backup point guard. They got it. They getting Jaden Ivey back, which they hope is better than any of the 3 guys we just named. They hope that he takes this leap, and if he does take the leap, they're way better. So I honestly feel like at the end of the day, it was a long kind of 72 hours for Pistons fans to arrive at this point.
It was a roller coaster.
Yes, it was definitely,
it was up and down.
It was definitely a roller coaster for 72 hours. It was something. But at the end of the day, they did arrive, I feel like, basically where Trajan wanted to arrive at, which is 3 vets come back, have 3 vets, and rely on internal growth. And I think that's basically where they're at right now. So what do I think of the offseason so far? I think it's basically exactly what Trajan said he was going to do. You agree with you? Pretty lateral. You got nothing else with that?
Yeah. It was pretty lateral. No, I'm sorry. It was lagging a little bit. I told you.
Go ahead.
Issues over here. It was lateral. Like, if your young guys get better, you should theoretically be better. Now, obviously, like, other teams have gotten better too, so we'll see what that looks like. But like, I don't think their context has really gotten worse. Like, Schroeder wasn't spacing the floor any better than LeVert will. And you talk about 3 vets. I mean, Lanier turns 29 next month. He's basically a vet. Right?
Come on, man.
I think he might play. Why would you draft a guy that old if he's not going to play?
I mean, how is he going to play? Where's he going to play at?
I don't know. I'm just like, if Duncan misses, I don't think Duncan's playing all 82. If he misses a couple weeks here and there, it might be Chaz time. He can shoot, and like, he's got physical tools. They drafted him for a reason. I'll continue to say they drafted him for a reason. They drafted him because they think he could play.
All right. Well, we'll end it there. I think the offseason has been basically exactly what Trajan said. So I don't expect nothing crazy. I wasn't really expecting anything crazy. Like I said, I think what makes some Pistons fans feel like it was so bad. I have seen a lot of people say that they feel like it's bad. I feel like part of the reason why is because of the roller coaster it took and how long it took us to you say it's 72 hours. People are like, that's only 3 days. But like, if you
when Malik Monk is dangled in front of your face and taken away from you, it feels worse.
Yeah. And then like within the 72 hours, if the guy who just hit 303 for you, all of a sudden it's being investigated by the FBI. It's like, right. You get the ups and downs it took to get to this point. I understand why some fans are maybe just like emotionally exhausted. I get it. But they basically are in the exact same spot they were already in. And that's basically what Trajan said they were going to do. They said they were going to be in the same spot and rely on internal development, and that's where they're at. So it's like,
yeah, your offseason was somebody side swipes you on the highway, but you got out of the car and you're like, okay, your car is a little left up, but you're okay. You can keep trucking. Like if you were going to do a good job at work tomorrow, then you'll go do a good job at work tomorrow. You know what I mean? You're not affected.
Coming
it wasn't
up,
great. It might have been traumatic a little bit, but.
No, yeah, trust me. I'll remember forever. Like you mentioned this before we started recording. I'll forever remember. You remember a few years ago when Beasley hit 300 threes and then immediately was investigated by the
Yeah, never played basketball again. Do you remember that? That was weird.
I'll remember this forever for sure. These 72 hours. But coming up, are there any further moves to be made? I am hearing that maybe there's something else on the horizon. I'll tell you guys what I'm hearing and what I'm talking about coming up. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review. Whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on, that's another great way to support the podcast. To wrap up the podcast, is there any further moves to happen? I'm not going to get into the whole CBA and cap stuff because honestly, I don't feel like anyone really knows where the Pistons are at right now cap-wise. How they're operating. We've had some people say they're operating under the cap. We've then had some people say maybe they go the over the cap route. Then I just saw an hour ago from Keith Smith of Spot Track saying the Pistons will be under the cap. Then I saw people saying, oh, well, they might have. The Pistons have a bunch of flexibility with how they can do things. Basically, what you need to know is they're not locked into anything right now. They're not like capped or anything. They do have flexibility to still do moves. I can't tell you for sure what moves or like what exceptions, how much cap they exactly have. Because it doesn't feel like anybody truly knows right now. It doesn't feel like anyone truly knows exactly how much cap they have and what they, exactly have to their benefit. So are there any further moves that can be made? I will tell you guys this. I know that a few days, obviously Matt brought it up. Malik Monk was, rumored to be coming to Detroit. We talked about that in the last podcast, a sign and trade with Dennis Schroeder. Then Schroeder signs for this 3-year contract and the reports come out and say the sign and trade is dead and kind of just move on from it. I have heard today that the sign and trade is not dead and that the Pistons and the Kings are still talking. Now, I want to make this clear. It does not mean that Malik Monk will for sure be the guy they trade for. They might just trade for a trade exception. They might trade. Who knows what will happen. But the Kings purposely signed Dennis Schroeder to a 3-year deal because in order to execute a sign and trade, the player signed has to be for 3 years. If it's less than 3 years, you can't sign and trade them. So they purposely signed Dennis Schroeder to that 3-year contract so they could spend the next 5 days discussing whether they want to actually sign and trade with the Pistons. And the reason why I say the next 5 days is because on July 6th, that's when everything has to be finalized. July 6th, things get signed and then that's cooked. Right now we're in, I forget what the exact, what is it? The pre,
I forget, like moratorium or whatever.
Yes, yeah, that's what it is. They're in that phase to where you can agree to things, but nothing is truly finalized. So what I am told is that the Pistons and the Kings are still talking about a sign and trade. Malik Monk to the Pistons is not dead. I wouldn't say it's likely. Right now, but a sign and trade with the Pistons.
Don't do this to us again, man.
Look, listen.
I already thought I was getting Malik Monk, and then didn't think I was getting Malik Monk.
I thought we were getting Malik Monk too, man.
And then now I don't think I'm getting him again.
Look, I thought we were getting Malik Monk too, and then I woke up and was like, "Oh my, it is what it is." But basically, all I can say is I know that the Pistons are still in talks with the Kings, and a sign and trade could happen. Whatever happens with that sign and trade, I know the multiple options are they can get a trade exception. There's a way the Pistons could acquire a trade exception. They could sign and trade for Malik Monk. Maybe another player on the Kings they want that the Kings will send. Maybe that happens. Or the Pistons could, and we've talked about this with Kyle a few times already on the playback streams, they could, in a long roundabout way, make it a 3-team deal, include an extra salary, send whatever, contract to that third team, and then acquire somebody on a larger salary. So those are all they have a lot of flexibility if they end up doing a sign and trade with the Kings. We'll see if they actually do. If by July 6th you don't see a sign and trade, that lets you know it's actually completely dead. But from what I'm hearing, as of right now, we're recording this 8:13 p.m. on July 1st. They're still talking about a sign and trade with the Kings. We'll see if they get it done. With that said, Matt, do you expect anything else to happen with the Pistons?
I guess I don't. I mean, I guess I do. Well, I think something else will happen. There's still so many parts that have to be moved for the rest of the offseason. Do I think anything as major as signing Duncan Robinson or Caris LeVert will happen? I guess I don't. I would place my money on no. But I think the cool part kind of where our roster is at right now, again, here I come with the positivity, like you need shoot. Like, I think I don't think that you can acquire another non-shooter, but you can kind of acquire any sort of type of player, like from a positional standpoint or from an archetypal standpoint, as long as they can shoot. Like, if you add another ball handler, a la Malik Monk or whoever, that's fine. I think the bench would be fine, with another ball handler, and you could kind of slide positionally. You could say Duncan will spend most of his time at the 3 as opposed to the 2, and I think that you're living with that. And you could say LeVert spends more time at the 2 than the 1 or whatever. And they kind of, him and another guard would probably share those duties as the 1. But you could do that. I think you could add like a Sam Hauser and it makes sense. And Duncan is just kind of always playing the 2 more so. And because like the thing that you have off your bench right now from as like a 3-4 is Ron Holland, right? And I don't think like he's probably not really big enough, strong enough quite yet to be a 4, but I don't question that he'll want to do any of the dirty work or that he'll shy away from any of the physicality that might come with playing more of a 4 role than a 3 role. Or if you ask him like, hey, you gotta, spend a little bit more of your energy on the glass, I think that he'll do that, right? Obviously, it might be better to have him running on the break and transition and being more focused on that. But if he has to commit to the defensive glass, I think that that's probably okay. And I think he'd be happy doing it. He's not Steven Adams or anything like that. I don't think whatever Ron Holland's role is, there will be some hiccups this year. I'm sure he's very young. So I don't know. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if if they don't feel like the 4 is as dire a need because they think, hey, that's kind of the minutes that Ron will be playing. We just need another player. We just need another sort of anybody. Like we could use a ball handler off the bench. We could use a wing off the bench. We could use a 4 off the bench. Like whatever it might be, whatever the best talent or best fit there is available, like we can kind of take in.
Yeah, I guess my final thing I'll say before we wrap up is I went to the offseason feeling like the 4 position was the spot they needed to upgrade the most. I felt like that would have the most impact. They haven't upgraded that spot at all. Maybe, like you said, they feel like that's where Ron's going to play his minutes. And then now you can play both Ron and Nassar a lot. I mean, you can play them both a lot of minutes instead of cutting into each other's minutes. Maybe that's how they view it. But I would have liked a 4. I completely agreed with you about Santi with LaRavia. I would have loved either of them.
Yeah.
I don't feel like Ron's a 4, but I understand why. If they do decide to play him at 4, I understand why. I don't feel like he is. I think if they had another 4, it really would be good, especially with Tobias being another year older. I just really the 4 position is just something I feel like I'm going to go on like 15 months of feeling uncomfortable about.
I guess I agree with you. Like 4 is the number 1 positional need for sure. I agree with that, but I guess I would say with the spot that we're in, I wouldn't overlook a better player who's not a 4.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Is what I'm saying.
I agree. But we'll see. Maybe they make something happen. Maybe they create a trade exception. Maybe they do a 3-team trade. If they're able to get the sign trade done with the Kings by July 6th, maybe it happens. The last thing I'll say, we did get a comment during the stream I actually do want to hit on before we leave. We only have a few minutes here, but do want to hit on it real quick. This one's from Antonio. He says, this offseason feels like an L because a lot of teams behind us got better. We lost our deemed main target to one of them, got thinner at one of our main weaknesses, and lost our veteran leadership.
I mean, our veteran leadership. Can I just say the veteran leadership? Can we be like we lost Malik Beasley? I feel like that's our veteran leader, Malik Beasley. I feel like we can't be in love with anymore.
Are you saying Malik, after what's coming out, may not have been a great?
I'm just saying we should factor it in. That's all I'm saying.
I will say this. I completely understand this. I can't really say everything you said is like nothing you said is really wrong. But
thinner at one of our main weaknesses. What does that mean?
I'd assume that he's talking about the 4. That would be my guess. Okay.
I mean, I guess Tech. We lost Tech. That makes us thinner. Nobody wanted him to play. I was the only one that was like, hey, I mean, if he plays, like it's whatever. I think he's an NBA player.
I wouldn't say that anything that Antonio said was wrong. But my thing is, I feel like Trajan kind of told us this is what was going to happen. Like he kind of said that he wasn't going to swing for the fences. They weren't going to be aggressive. And all they did was just replace Beasley, Schroeder.
Yeah.
And they said, Ivy coming back, he's going to take a jump. The young guys will take a jump, and then we'll get better that way. So I feel like Trajan kind of
handles the ball a lot better than last year's did. Sorry.
What do you say?
I said this team handles the ball a lot better than last year's did when you're taking Hardaway and Beasley off the floor.
They do have more guys that can dribble the basketball. That's fair.
It's more dynamic, man. I think like that's you watch the playoffs. It felt like that definitely was one of the main themes was that teams were just had more dynamic ball handlers. There wasn't like just catch and shoot was not somebody's skill set on offense that lasted in these playoffs.
Right. Look, if they're able to get a 4, I would love it. That is the last. If they could do it, I think that would be great for them. I don't know if they will, but I'd love it. If not, my takeaway is this is basically what Trajan said was going to happen and that they were going to rely on internal improvement. People maybe didn't believe it was actually going to happen. It took a long roundabout way to get here. These 72 hours have been crazy, but this is where they were going to arrive at. This is what they wanted to do. They believe that young guys will take a step forward and they'll get better that way. We just have to wait to see at that point. If they do, we're talking a little bit better. But if they don't, then it's, you might not have as great of a season, but you kind of got to hope and have optimism that the young guys will take a step. SR will take a step. Ivy will take a step. Durham will take a step. And now a lot of these issues maybe aren't issues anymore. So we'll see what happens. But I think this offseason has been fine. I think that they've done basically what Trajan said would happen. So that's all I've got for you guys today. Appreciate you guys making Locked On Pistons your first listen every single day. Thank you, Matt, for coming on. I appreciate you always making time to come on. Thank you guys. Hit that subscribe button at the Locked On Pistons YouTube channel. Leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe out there. Until next time, peace out, everybody.